direct conversation, some deep reactions, please. All this comics narration ain't late me. A little more talk, a lot less read. A little fight, baby, is what I need. Close the trade, open up your brains. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Rhett Conversations. My name is Josh Wasta, a.k.a. Fallout Fury. My lovely co-host is with me, as always, the Professor L, Leia Cameron. Hey, Leia.
What's up, everybody?
And so today we're going to be finishing our Spider-Man three-peat. We're at the end of the tunnel. We've already been through Clone Wars, or Clone Saga, and Sin's Path, so it's been pretty painful. And today we're going to hit one more day. And a story about Peter Parker and Mary Jane selling their marriage. And for this show, what better guest could we have than my MJ, the person that I would have to sell my marriage for?
Wait a second. A story about selling marriages? Why is it perfect?
My wife, Jennifer Howland.
Hello.
And for the first time auditing the Rhett Conversation show, the last of the Graphically Novel hosts, forming the foursome that is this host network of the Graphically Novel family. Bear's here.
Hey, they let me come back.
Yay! It's the GN verse.
The GN verse, nice.
Ooh.
Yeah, not in no way is it is Snyder involved with it at all.
No, I think we can stop logging.
We're still looking for the S-Men cut, though.
That's right.
That's right.
So we're going to be doing one more day. I've already said too much. So if this is your first episode, this is how this goes. In this case, I will be the main instructor taking Jennifer through the plot of this comic. At any point, she has the power to stop the entire show to ask a question. That question could be, who's that guy? That question could be, what would be the motivations for doing something like that? Or it could be, what the fuck? We get that one a lot. At that point, her question will be answered by Professor L, my partner Leia, who can also, call me in if she needs to, but for the most part, we'll be handling all of the questions. Therefore, we have the three of us. Now, our auditor will probably just throw out smart-ass comments throughout this show.
That's kind of what I do usually, so.
Yeah, so this should be a pretty good one. So, I've got my 8 pages of notes on this. So,
Sweet Jesus.
And this does require a little bit of a preface. So, previously on Rhett Conversation, just so you have a little bit of understanding of some of the things that have happened. This is the end of J. Michael Straczynski's 6-year run on Spider-Man. He did Babylon 5, and then he decided to do a bunch of Spider-Man. I don't know. But he introduced some concepts. And the first one that will definitely be involved in this is the concept of the other. It was a storyline in which you find out that the spider that bit Peter Parker, the reason that he got powers was not because the spider was radioactive, but because it was an ancient totem spider that people had been using for generations. And this caused him to go into a cocoon. He emerged with organic webs. It was the whole thing.
I'm out. Spiders don't go into cocoons.
Okay, well, he did. It was a web cocoon.
This is a
Like an
science-based
egg sac?
comic series.
Kind of like an egg sac.
Okay, carry on.
Along in this run, also, there were a couple things that happened where Aunt May found out that Peter was Spider-Man. Really, the status quo didn't change that much, except she had the most Aunt May response I'd ever seen, and the first thing she did was cancel her subscription to the Daily Bugle. Like, by personally going down to the newspaper office and canceling. There's a whole thing with the Avengers just pre-Civil War where Tony Stark basically says if you're an Avenger, you and your family can live in Avengers Tower. So there's an entire part where Mary Jane, Aunt May, and Peter are all living in Avengers Tower. This will be important later because Aunt May struck up an awesome friendship with Jarvis.
Of course she did.
Tony Stark's butler. Yes, because they were the oldest people other than Wolverine.
Well,
in
and
there.
Jarvis is just amazing.
Yes.
Mhm.
And Wolverine through this whole thing, not really relevant to this story, but was flirting with Mary Jane every opportunity he got because there was a redhead in the tower.
An unattainable redhead.
Mhm.
Or maybe not. We will find out. Or I will find out.
You will find out. So then we skate right into Civil War. Now, we did an entire episode on Civil War. It was our first episode of Rec Conversations with the wonderful Mike Domzak. The thing that you need to remember for this, or know, is just that Peter Parker revealed his secret identity to the world at a press conference to sign up for the Superhero Registration Act. On Tony's behest, Tony basically guaranteed him that all of his family would be safe. Halfway through Civil War, Peter Parker bounced out of that side, joined Captain America's side, and lost all of those protections. So, with all of that, we start into One More Day. Shortly after Civil War, Peter is a fugitive. The Kingpin obviously knows who he is now because he has told everyone. The Kingpin hires an assassin named Jake Martino to kill Peter. The assassin, instead, while shooting, Peter gets his spider sense. He dives, saves Mary Jane, and Aunt May gets shot. So this starts with Peter taking Aunt May to the hospital. Because he's using a fake identity, and therefore so is MJ and so is May, he has no insurance. So the doctor basically tells him that if they don't have a way to pay or don't have a way to prove that they can pay, she'll be moved to the charity care ward, where basically it'll be up to Medicaid or a random charity to cover her bills, or she'll basically die.
What is this, Chicago?
Yeah, I found this very realistic. I was like, yeah.
Right? So Peter leaves to, quote, go visit someone with a bottomless checkbook. The doctor stops him outside in the hall, and he tells Peter that he had an uncle who almost died 2 years ago, but he only survived because he was rescued by Spider-Man. The doctor kind of holds up a newspaper where Peter revealed himself to be Spider-Man and is like, you're not fooling anybody. So the doctor vows to hide May as long as he can from like the administration in the hospital, because he's always wanted to return the favor to Peter. Peter then breaks into Stark Tower. Iron Man, obviously Tony is watching on the security cameras, can't tell that it is Peter because it's in shadow. So in full Iron Man outfit, he flies into Peter and through a window. Like, just no hesitation on force whatsoever, not even knowing who this is. Discovers it's Peter. Peter webs the foot jets on Tony Stark's suit, and they start to fall and plummet to their deaths. Tony uses his hand thrusters to stop their fall, and basically Peter uses that power drain that he's caused as an opportunity to punch Tony in his helmet face, which leaves like a blood smear off of Peter's hand because he just punched a metal helmet.
Questions?
Yep.
Why did he break into Stark Tower? To attack Tony?
Leia.
That's because Tony Stark has a bottomless checkbook, you see.
Well, that's what I thought. But then why would he... Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Why wouldn't he use the door?
Yeah, why would he break in? If he's asking for money, why would he break in? And then when Iron Man, who he knows is Tony Stark, attacks him, why does he attack him?
It does seem a little whack that ostensibly you're going to somebody's house to ask for money, but to do so you destroy a bunch of their property and beat the piss out of them in order to then ask them for money. It does seem very counterintuitive. I would never do that. But
I mean, are they in Hell's Kitchen? Is that what they are?
No.
No, it's not Irish mob style asking for money.
No, it's not like protection money.
Yeah, it is very counterintuitive. I also was confused as to why he just didn't use the door. But
or pick up the phone, maybe.
Right, yeah, or you shoot him a text or what have you. But my understanding is very literally this was just done for dramatic purposes and no other reason.
Gotcha.
Also, they are not the best of friends after Civil War.
Yeah, they're not good buddies, but still, I mean, I feel like you still would probably use the door in that situation. Like 99.9% of people would still use the goddamn door, but comics.
Got it.
We're not so much on the best friends. Tony then goes to hit Peter with a full maximum power unibeam, like his big attack out of the middle of his chest. And Peter, for the first time since he's gotten organic webbing, goes, well, I've never really seen the limitations of how much webbing I can throw out of my hands with this organic thing, so let's find out. Because he's blinded by the unibeam, he just kind of blindly sprays Tony with webbing.
Are they on the ground now?
They're on a rooftop.
Okay.
And he completely cocoons Tony into a giant thing of webbing that is suspending him in the air.
Like a snack?
Yes. Tony keeps trying to talk Peter into turning himself in, basically saying, you're a criminal, somebody's going to get you eventually. Peter yells at him to shut up and basically reaches through the webbing and pulls Tony's helmet off of his head and tosses it to the side because he wants to have a conversation with him face to face. Sorry. He tells him Aunt May is dying and it's his fault because he told Peter that exposing himself would keep them safe, and now she's been hurt because of that, and he can't pay for her care. Peter says he won't let her die, and that Tony needs to help until he can find a way to save her life. Tony says anything he could or would do would be tracked back to him, and he would be aiding and abetting a known criminal. He's not willing to undermine everything Civil War was about. He then allows Peter to walk away this one time.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to get back to
Peter goes back to the hospital, tells MJ he'll do anything that's required to get the money. MJ picks up on what he's saying and says, don't go down that path. He says he's already a wanted criminal, and what difference would it make if he went and robbed the bank? This is cut short by the appearance of Jarvis, who says that he heard that his cousin, May Morgan from Blackpool, was admitted to the hospital, and he's there to care for her. He gets emotional looking at May, like through the hospital mirror, and actually states that he loves her. The
really
doctors arrive. What?
It's
really sweet.
It is. The doctors arrive to move May, and Jarvis presents them a check for $2 million.
Wait,
Yeah.
you're watching the CW.
Right. So regardless of all of that, the doctor still kind of pulls Peter aside and starts to prepare him to face May's immediate death because she's old and shot, and her body just probably will not recover from all the trauma. MJ stays with May while Peter goes in costume to Dr. Strange's house. Dr. Strange explains that his magic can't be used in a magic healing way. Like, there are consequences to all of that. And her death is inevitable eventually. Interrupting that is not something within his purview. He will, however, use an artifact called the Hands of the Dead to allow Peter to basically go several places at once in space, wherever he wants to go. So Peter has conversations with several people in the Marvel Universe all at the same time, basically trying to figure out who can help. And there's a pretty cool panel where he's talking with everybody, but some of the names, some of the people that he's talking to in this panel are Dr. Doom, Reed Richards, Doc Ock, Black Panther, Mr. Sinister, the High Evolutionary, Hank Pym, and Night Nurse.
Okay, two characters I don't know. The High Evolutionary?
The High Evolutionary, as I recall, is kind of, and Josh, you can help me out on this because I'm not super familiar, but as I recall, he's kind of like... It's really hard to explain. He's kind of like a god figure, but he's not a god.
Usually it's associated with AIM.
Yeah, and he's kind of in charge of like humanity.
Yeah, kind of.
Like,
but yet still a villain.
Right, yeah, but also he's a bad guy. I don't know a ton about him, admittedly, but he's got a very nebulous sort of authoritative demigod sort of role, if that makes sense.
Right. And all of he's big science.
Yeah.
Same level as like Reed Richards and Dr. Doom. Although Dr. Doom takes science and magic and is like, fuck bitches, I'm everything.
Okay. And then Night Nurse.
Night Nurse. She is, I know a little bit more about her. She's actually like a hangover from kind of the old school days that has been in several storylines. And basically her job is she is very literally a night nurse. She takes care of superheroes after they have been like beaten up or wounded. She's kind of like the EMS services for street level superheroes.
They never called her this, but it was Rosario Dawson in the Netflix
I was
series.
going to say, there wasn't a series, it was a movie, wasn't it?
No,
Daredevil.
Like Daredevil
Oh,
and and
What was
Luke
the-
Cage and all of those, that's
Yeah.
Night Nurse. Claire is
Yeah.
Night Nurse.
Okay, I was thinking of the movie that was like the Jodie Foster was the nurse, and it was like this high security where the criminals all went.
Hotel
Oh.
Artemis.
Yeah, Hotel Artemis. That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking.
Kind of like that, but not like with the services, yes, with the like secrecy and all of that stuff, no.
Right.
Yeah. Basically Claire
Okay.
from the
Daredevil.
Defenders stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all of them say the same thing. There's nothing they can do to save May. Peter gets back and is kind of disoriented. And he asks if that's the only kind of thing that the artifact does, and he says, "Well, it takes you through space and time, but we're not going to mess with time. Like, let's." So he's disoriented. So Strange is like, "You know what, Peter? I'll go get you a drink. We'll keep talking." While he's out of the room, basically, like Peter's like, artifact. Peter, yes. Like, grabs the artifact because Peter is scientist and super smart. One of the things he talks about is this is where science and magic are similar. Generally, both people will speak Latin.
Yeah.
So he's like memorized the incantation that Strange said, so he uses them and goes back in time, but he's only in a spectral form. So he's witnessing events, but he can't interact with anyone. And he goes back to where Aunt May is going to get shot and is looking at the assassin about to shoot at the hotel room where they're at. So this is where he like tries to jump at the guy, finds out he can't interact with anything, but then a black fanged spirit creature shows up and it just starts kicking his ass. So this thing can hit him. He can't hit back. Long story short, while he's in a fight with these things and he's trying to save Aunt May from getting shot, he just ends up witnessing the shooting again. Strange pulls him back. I'm sure really pissed and says that those creatures are called Nightwalkers and they live on the edges of space and time to prevent anyone from changing destiny. So this kind of has locked in, this is meant to be. Strange takes Peter to a past sanctum to heal him. Peter asks Strange, okay, well, why can you heal me in this spirit form and not May? And he says, magical cures for magical ills. So it's kind of like the not Dawn, what was the name of Willow's girlfriend in Buffy? Tara. Like Tara getting shot and basically, it was a mortal death. Strange transports them back and recommends to Peter that he go and say goodbye to May. On Peter's way out of the hospital, a little girl approaches him and says, even if Dr. Strange can't help Peter, she can.
Yeah, it's real weird.
She says,
do we know who this little girl is?
Never seen her before.
Okie doke.
She says, Peter saves people all the time, and it's time for someone rescued him. Peter says he's at the end of his rope, and the girl says he hasn't even seen the rope, but she'll show it to him, and does he want to save May or not?
Yeah, creepy kid times 1,000.
Yeah. They continue to talk. Suddenly, the girl calls Peter selfish and says he puts his pain at the center of the universe, and the whole world has to pay for his pain because making his pain feel big makes him feel big. And then the girl runs into an alley.
Yes, this is
pretty
the real
much
thing that happened.
that quick too. Like it's just like talk. You're selfish. I'm like, what?
Yeah, like out of absolutely nowhere. Like in one panel, she's having a nice time, they're having a decent conversation, and then like bam, next panel, she's like, also, you're a piece of shit. Like very weird. This kid also appears to be about, I'm guessing about like 8 or 9 years old, so young.
Little girl, red hair.
Mm-hmm.
So when Peter follows into the alley, the girl is gone. And there's a middle-aged guy sitting there, kind of looks like Stephen King, reading Atlas Shrugged.
Of course he is.
When Peter asks where the little girl is,
Ayn Rand.
When Peter asks where the little girl is, the guy is like, she disappears and reappears all the time.
Wait, okay.
Then when Peter asks who the man is, he doesn't give a name, but he says he's a software designer and tester for video games. When Peter's like, okay, well, that must be fun. The man says people seek out games because the world no longer offers people like him the chance to be heroes.
Yeah, there's
and
there's like a lot.
This dude's just chilling in the alley reading
on a bench. Yeah,
there's a bench in the alley.
It's kind of like you go through the alley and then there's like the garden areas in between apartments, like squares, with like a little plant and like a bench.
Okay. So it's not really an alley. It's kind of like a pedestrian pass through.
It
between
looks
buildings.
like an alley when she runs into it.
Like dumpsters and shit.
I did not notice any dumpsters.
Sorry.
It was a thin corridor between two buildings. What do you want from me?
Yeah, like kind of like a courtyard, but not, if that makes any sense. Like
Right.
like a throughway.
Okay, well, I've changed my mental perception of a, puddle, dirty, smelly alley with dumpsters and like back doors into shops into like a pedestrian walkway to a little. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So the man goes on to say that people like him play video games and read books to experience the world they were promised and never got.
Yeah, there's a lot of personal attacks on gamers and gaming for like a couple pages.
He goes on to say if he was a hero, he'd be grateful and wouldn't ask for more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It is at this point that a Mercedes pulls up and like the dude in the back seat, Grey Poupon style, like rolls down his window and tells Peter he saw the little girl and invites Peter into the car and he'll give him a lift to go get her.
How did he know that Peter was looking for the little girl? And yet, is Peter suspicious at all about any of this?
He's sure not.
Weirdly not. Like, I don't know. I mean, because I had this moment while I was reading that where I was like, okay, so anytime a strange man rolls up on me and asks me to get in his car, I call 911. But like,
You're also not a white dude.
yes, also that. So yes, my reaction is going to inherently be different to that kind of casual, hey, get in the car. You want to see this puppy I found or whatever. Free candy. And Peter's just like, yeah, man, I'll take a ride from you, strange guy in a limo or whatever. Like it's very strange. And he doesn't ask questions. He doesn't say, wait, how do you know who I'm looking for? He just gets in.
I mean, that adds like another layer of what the fuck is going on. WTF, mate.
Yes, it does. But there's a reason for this, and I'm sure Josh will get into it soon.
Okay.
I sure will. So Peter gets into the car, and it has like the guy's sitting in the car, and he has like 3 of those stark floating screens, like those hologram screens, like in front of him, and he's looking at stocks and stuff. And yeah.
So he's a very important dude.
Apparently, he's
got a lot going on in his GameStop portfolio.
So the man offers Peter a drink. Peter refuses, saying it's not that he doesn't drink, but as a rule, he chooses not to.
Wow, was that necessary? Can you just say no, thank you?
Yeah, I also thought that was weird, and I was going to ask you if Josh, is that like a thing for Spider-Man? Because I don't think I've ever really seen it outside of this comic.
In no fucking way, shape, or form.
Okay, because I was
absolutely not.
I was like, that's weird that all of a sudden it's like teetotaler Peter. Okay.
Yeah, no, he on the reg goes out to like Josie's bar. And has drinks. So
exactly. Yeah. I was very confused. I was like, is this a new thing? And I just missed it. Nope. For whatever reason, he's a total no fun Peter Parker in this art.
So the man basically says, I used to be like that too, and it's interesting where our choices lead us.
Okay.
And so while
they're a little heavy-handed with the foreshadowing, huh?
While they're driving down the block, the man looks out the window and says he grew up in this neighborhood. He was bullied and ridiculed for being smart. And once he started developing patents and became rich, he hired most of the people who bullied him. And now he's given them a reason to despise him.
Did he just get into the car with Vincent D'Onofrio?
Possibly.
Okay, yeah, I think if Vincent D'Onofrio rolled up on me and said, that little girl you're looking, I'm like, what? Can I get in your car, please?
You got some brains stuck in the inseam of your door here.
Weather stripping's a little gooey.
Peter says it must be nice, and he must be happy to have everything he ever wanted. And the man responds, he doesn't have everything he ever wanted. One of the women from high school was all he ever wanted, and he would trade it all for her.
I also need to point out, too, that this guy looks like older. Like he's I would peg him maybe like in his 60s or 70s.
Yeah, ring, temples, like the whole...
Like J. Jonah Jameson?
He actually does kind of look like him a little bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, not as, I mean, he's a little more, not round, but a little more filled out. Okay. So the man points Peter to another alleyway and says, and basically says, who you're looking for is down there. And then Peter like looks at the alleyway, looks back, the guy's gone. Car gone.
Wait, was he in the car?
They
Yes.
basically get out of the car and he points at an
okay,
alleyway and
yes.
is like, go there.
Okay.
And then car gone. So Peter starts to walk down the alleyway and a shadowy figure of a woman appears and says she's been waiting for Peter her whole life.
His whole life.
His whole life. You're right. He basically corrects her and is like, if you're trying to hit on me, it shouldn't have been your whole life. Like, has this whole kind of exchange that was weird. Peter said since he walked into the neighborhood, it's felt like he's been in a dream. And the woman asks him how he knows it's not. And then there's a weird, way outdated for 2007 Dallas Kafka joke. Like he's like, am I gonna wake up in the shower as J.R. Ewing?
Yeah.
And am I gonna wake up as a cockroach?
Well, okay.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
weird.
And when did this comic come out?
2007.
Yeah, old enough to know better, basically.
Yes. The woman explains that destiny is a series of events that take place as strands. You remove one strand and a whole life can change. For example, the strand where the spider landed on Peter and bit him. If it were removed, he could have become either of the two men that he just met. The woman then says that she's the only one who can save May and reveals herself to be Mephisto.
Dun, dun, dun.
This is where Mephisto was fucking off and not in WandaVision, apparently. When Peter guesses, so you want my soul, Mephisto says that he doesn't do that anymore because it's no fun, because people who make that deal suffer in hell, but they suffer righteously knowing that they saved someone.
Yes.
And he now deals in misery and relishes the chances to get souls, quote, straight up. Peter says he can't make a decision like that without MJ, to which Mephisto is like, oh, yes, absolutely. She's right behind that door over there and points to a hotel that they're suddenly at, like a motel that they're suddenly at.
Yeah, they're in the Super 8 doing deals with Mephisto. Who amongst us cannot say that they have done the same?
Typical Saturday night, man.
Yeah.
I, too, was once in my 20s.
Peter basically like opens the door into the motel room where Mephisto is having the exact same conversation with MJ, and MJ is saying, I can't make a decision like that without Peter.
Yeah.
Well, at least they're on the same page.
Peter and MJ ask what Mephisto wants, if not their souls, and Mephisto says he wants what will cause them the most pain, what gives them the annoying strength that sustains them in despair. He wants their marriage. Peter immediately starts to be like, no, but MJ says, no, hear him out.
Yeah, like let's give this guy a minute. Let's hear what he has to say.
Right? She asks what the terms are, and Mephisto says that they will be allowed one more day to enjoy the world as it is. After that, the world will change. They will remember nothing. They won't remember the deal, and they won't remember their past lives. The only part of them that will remember is a tiny sliver of their souls, and that will know, and that piece will scream for all of eternity. And he'll basically just turn that to his Spotify and decide that's his jam now.
Hit that track on repeat.
That's right. He's about to drop a fire album. He gives them until midnight tomorrow to make the choice: their marriage or Aunt May. Any questions at this point?
No, but okay. I mean, all right, here's one. How old is Aunt May?
She is like in her 80s. She's like not coming back from getting shot old.
Yeah. She's lived a long, full life at this point.
So they're idiots.
Yes.
Okay. So Aunt May could have fallen down the stairs and broken her hip and died. Anyway.
Yes, but
this could end like Twilight Zone level.
Right.
Like, she stayed for a day and then gets into an elevator.
Right.
Yeah, and then like on top of it too, the driving force here for Peter, his big motivation is that he feels that he is personally responsible for what happened to May, because had he never revealed himself in Civil War, people who wanted to hurt him wouldn't have come after his family. So the fact that she got shot and didn't have pancreatic cancer or fall down the stairs or suffer from Alzheimer's or whatever, those wouldn't have been his fault. But her getting shot is his fault, and he feels personally responsible for that. That's why he's so balls to the wall about this.
Okay.
So next scene, you see Peter waking up like in bed and reaching for MJ, and she's not in there. So he kind of gets out of bed. She's kind of just standing in the bathroom door, barely holding it together. And they talk about MJ brings up May's age and is like, don't hate me for bringing this up, but, she's lived a good time. Could this just be her time to go?
Right.
And Peter says that if it were a natural death, he could accept it, but knowing it was a bullet meant for him would tear him apart. To which MJ's like, okay, so if I say that we shouldn't do this, I'm going to be the reason that you're torn apart. So there's really no choice here. And Peter's like, no, if we make the decision together, I would be able to let her go.
Well, there you go. Good.
One would think. But and it's weird because they're supposed to have, it doesn't actually show what they do with their last day. Because then they're in front of Mephisto again.
Okay.
And they talk to Mephisto, and MJ just brings up Peter's secret identity, and is like, how do we know that somebody's not going to just come and kill us all next week, And Mephisto basically, kind of sidesteps that, and is basically like, listen, do you want the deal or not? Yeah. May doesn't have time. MJ accepts the deal, but says that there will be a caveat to it and says you need to restore his secret identity. If you're going to do this part, you need to do the next part. Mephisto asks why he would do that, and MJ goes up and just whispers in his ear. We have no idea what she said, and Mephisto accepts. But then he tells Peter also needs to accept the deal because he only has confirmation.
Right.
Peter's kind of hemming and hawing, and MJ tells him to be her hero and agree. I can be your hero, baby. And he says, do it. Mephisto says he's surprised that Peter didn't ask who the shadowy woman in the alley was that he was appearing as. And Peter's like, oh, yeah, I really don't care about her. What about the little girl? Who was the little girl? To which Mephisto says, that's the child that they will now never have. She would have been the best part of both of them. And Peter's like, I'm gonna kick your ass. and Mephisto's like, okay, deal done. Bye.
Peter, why are you such an idiot?
So basically there is the midnight chimes are going through. And in the last moment, MJ says it won't matter, that nothing can or will keep them apart. Not even God or the devil. They say, I love you to one another, and Peter wakes up alone in bed.
Okay.
Strong
downstairs.
Words for Mary Jane.
That?
I said strong blasphemous words for Mary Jane.
Right. He goes downstairs, and Aunt May is cooking breakfast. He grabs food and gets on his bicycle to head to a surprise party that someone is having. He is still a mid-30s man, by the way.
Okay.
No longer has a car or anything, just a bicycle.
Maybe he's just being conscious.
Maybe.
His impact on the environment.
He gets to a very nice apartment with a doorman and everything, and is sent upstairs where he's greeted by Flash Thompson, his old high school bully who is now his friend. MJ is there, basically staring daggers at Peter and being very cold to him, and Flash refers to something happening between them and is like, she's still pissed, huh? And Peter is about to go into what happened between them when the surprise happens. The person they're surprising comes in, and it's Harry Osborn, who previous to this, I believe, was dead.
Yeah, he was dead.
So now Harry's okay and everybody's friends, and Harry brings his new girlfriend over to Flash and Peter and introduces them, and her name is Lily Hollister, and then she has a friend named Carly Cooper who seems to be interested in Peter right away and starts flirting with him. And as Carly and Peter are talking, MJ gets in the elevator and leaves and bounces.
I also want to point out real quick too that the reason for this surprise party is because Harry is back from Europe. In one panel, he mentions or implies that he was in Europe for rehab, and now that he is done with rehab, he is opening up some champagne because rehab was very boring.
Oh my god!
It's
okay.
I read that and I was like,
So the
wow.
the author seems to be having some issues with drinking, perhaps.
Well, and also Harry then offers Peter the first pour out of the champagne bottle, and Peter just holds the empty glass and goes, no, thank you. And Harry's like, same old Peter.
In this short series, I'm a teetotaler, as you know, and everybody's like, that's right, you are. Very weird.
Okay.
Harry then proposes a toast, and everyone in the room holds up champagne glasses and cheers to a brand new day.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
And that is the end.
Yeah,
that's the end of One More Day.
That's
the
it.
Next,
that's the plot.
The next whole part is called Brand New Day.
Okay. Peter Parker is an idiot.
If there's one thing I've learned over the past 3 episodes that we've done on various Spider-Man plots is that yes, Peter Parker is a big ding dong.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So yeah, no, I'd be pissed too if I were Mary Jane.
Well, and I also want to point out too that this is only 4 issues, right? This is only 4 issues. So it's a very, very short series that was almost universally panned by anybody who ever read it, and the creators ended up essentially disavowing it entirely because this was 100% management meddling and not like a storyline that somebody really wanted to write. This was 100% people in the bullpen wanting to essentially make Peter Parker more relatable to the kids.
Right, because you can't be relatable if you're married.
Yeah.
Because this is Joe Quesada, who we talked about last episode with Sins Past, and deciding that Gwen Stacy having a child or 2 children with Norman Osborn would be consensual sex and all would be, just the shot in the arm that the Spider-Man line needed.
Who amongst us has not fucked their friend's dad? I'm still not over that.
Yeah, right.
I've seen that.
To cheer him up.
Right,
To
because
cheer him up 'cause
he's
he's
sad.
Yeah, I've seen American Beauty.
I've seen Brazers.
Oh, so bad.
Yeah. So this was also the last of Straczynski's 6-year run. He has universally disavowed it and said it was stupid. The more important thing though is it's not necessarily disavowed by Marvel because 14 years later, it's still a thing. The most recent run seems to start to be resolving it, which I'm not going to give a lot away with that plot, but it's actually been pretty good. Like a lot of stuff happened to Harry where he realizes he was dead. It's kind of very Hawkeye in House of M, and he is not having it.
Having a good time with that, huh?
Yeah.
They should start a support group.
I think it was 3. It would have been 3 years later. There was another series that was just like 3 issues, but it was called One Moment in Time that dealt directly with this. If you take the initials of that, it is omit. And it was a lot more on kind of the rules of the deal because what you find out is nobody, period, knows Spider-Man and Peter Parker are the same person, like across the board. Down to Aunt May, down to everybody. And the only way that he can make people remember is if he willingly takes off his mask in front of them and chooses to show them who he is. He does it notably with the Fantastic Four, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, hey, Peter, yeah, totally. Now we remember that we knew who you were.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not better. Like, there is nothing moving forward that is better. So that's one more day.
Oh, it was. I mean, I can definitely say that I appreciated the shortness of this particular arc.
Right. Yeah. Which is why this will be a much shorter episode in general because we didn't have I had probably more notes, but they weren't like things that you would have questions on other than what, why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that like my overall takeaway is seriously WTF, mate.
Yeah.
Why would you even do this? It's not
right.
Yeah. And even the reasoning behind it is real weird. And again, I touched on this in a previous episode, but Mary Jane and Peter's relationship is pretty consistently established as being really healthy and really good. They clearly love each other, and they deeply care about one another. But these comics also seemed really determined to essentially punish Mary Jane for that.
Yes. Yeah.
and it's Mary Jane has done nothing wrong. Leave that poor woman alone. And Peter always finds a way to spectacularly fuck it up while also kind of making it seem like even though they have this good relationship and they love each other and they care about each other, it also kind of seems like Peter is ready to just toss that in the garbage at any given moment over the smallest fucking thing.
Well,
it's real weird.
In this, Peter never actually makes any choices.
Yeah.
Everything is presented to him. And then Mary Jane is the one that, she's the first one to bring up, hey, Aunt May is fucking old.
Yeah.
And shot. And could get shot again. Like, she is the only one to really bring any decision making or even thought process into any of this. She's the one that first chooses to make the deal with Mephisto. She's the one that adds in the caveat about the secret identity. You know, she's the one that encourages Peter to go along with it at the end. It's weird.
It is weird, but I also got the distinct impression, and I mean, I guess everybody's mileage may vary on this, but like I got the distinct impression that she made all those choices because of what Peter had initially said, is that, like, you know, if Aunt May dies, you know, his whole life is ruined and, you know, split in two and all this other stuff. And she's like, well, I don't want to be fucking responsible for that, so I guess this is what we're gonna do then. You know what I mean? Like,
Aunt May has been dead twice before. I mean,
but I wonder too. I wonder if that whole, like, making it seem like MJ is the one making these decisions, it was done to prevent it seeming like Spider-Man, Peter Parker, is railroading her into this decision.
Oh yeah,
like
I'm
she
certain.
is, you know, yeah.
You know, that like, if basically she made it look like it was his idea, essentially, you know, or I'm sorry, that looked like it was her idea,
right?
Basically, because you know, otherwise, you know, Peter would just resent her essentially for choosing their marriage and their love for each other over an elderly lady who, again, like you said, I mean, yeah, okay, she could recover, but then like the following week she could fall down the stairs,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's not really, in the grand scheme of things, you know, I'm not saying let the old lady die, but I am saying, like, it's not actually fixing or solving anything, even though on the surface,
right,
the very barest surface, it does appear to be fixing or solving something. But ultimately, like, in that 24-hour time period where they had their final day, somebody should have given it more than 30 seconds of deep thought.
Well, I mean,
that's all, like, I'm saying.
I love my Abuela. My Abuela is a wonderful, one of the purest hearts on the planet.
Yeah, she's a sweet woman.
She's a very sweet woman. But as a
rule, abuelas are the best.
Right. But if there was going to be something that's like, well, we could dissolve you and Jen's marriage and save her this one time with no guarantees.
She would murder you where you stand.
Also true.
You'd get the chancla.
I would get the chancla. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The Dr. Scholl's chancla, too. Like, I ain't fucking around. I got Arch's chancla.
She would,
heavy duty.
If you ever considered not being married for her, she would, like, kill herself.
Right. Well, and that's another part that's kind of weird, is that May's in a coma, but I mean, you're the writer of this. She could come out of it in long enough for you to have a conversation with her.
Right.
Where there's like, hey, by the way, agency, old lady, like, what do you think? And then she'd be like, are you out of your fucking mind?
Yeah, I also thought it was weird. And again, like, this, I've struggled with this a lot with some comics. But like, if you could have, I would have put in, like, as a stipulation, be like, cool, wake her up for 10 minutes so I can run this past her. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, you've got all these magical powers or whatever, and you know, enough to retcon my entire marriage. Surely you have enough juice or magic or wooge or whatever, you know, to wake up my comatose aunt and see what she thinks. Does she want to stay alive?
Right.
You know, and nobody does this, so now she's just kind of alive.
You know, maybe Aunt May doesn't want to be living with Peter, making him breakfast for the
right.
You know.
Right.
This is why I have a DNR on file. Not a do not resuscitate, a do not retcon.
Oh God. Yeah. There were so many things, much like the previous two ones that we did that were Spider-Man. They had it was a good idea, like a good concept that they just completely made terrible, like through like bad writing or what have you. I just, this could have been a cool storyline, but the fact that we don't even get to see whatever they do on their last day, what is that about also? Like, what is that? Like, are we to assume that they just spent that 24-hour period just banging and that's why we don't see it? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume that would be part of it, but like, you know, maybe not the entire day.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. It's super, super weird. The choices that were made for it weren't great. The justifications just weren't. Yeah. This is another one that I believe that I stopped reading Spider-Man for a while after this.
I can understand.
Because I'm also a huge fan of Peter and Mary Jane. When the relationship is written well, which surprisingly, for as horrible as Sin's past was in the general, their interactions, Peter and MJ's interactions, were probably the highlight of that book.
Yeah, for sure. Like they very much had a definitely, like I said, really great, really wholesome, clearly love and care about each other, really good relationship.
Right. Except for in Clone Saga where I don't know.
Some things happen.
there are a lot of things that happen. So Jen, and then I'll go to Leia on the same question. I read all of these before. I am a huge Spider-Man person. You have studied and audited the other two of this Spider-Man three-peat. And I'm not exactly sure how much you listened to, but...
These are all ridiculous. Okay, what's your question?
Has it changed or altered your view of Spider-Man at all, as a whole?
Yeah, like, I think less of Peter Parker now. Because I think that my limited experience with Peter Parker was that smart kid, smart young adult, tries to do the right thing, a little naive, but, big heart in the right place. And, any time in my mind with my experience that he's been a fuck up has been like socially, but in really small, gaffy ways, not like I'm going to make these life-changing decisions that are going to fuck me and everybody I love. And after these writers, I feel like someone needs to sit them down and make sure they're okay.
So how do you find these as compared to, I think the only other major Spider-Man story that we read for Graphically Novel was Into the Spider-Verse. And that one, I mean, it has Peter in it, but it has so many other characters, but Peter kind of takes the reins and is the leader in that. Did you see a real difference?
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like this Peter is not a lead. He is self-absorbed, self-pitying, and really doesn't, he's not a superhero. He doesn't give a shit about anyone except for himself.
Leia?
Oof. Well, I stated it in one of the earlier episodes, I can't remember which one, is that my big takeaway is that for a character who is almost universally beloved and marketed to children, a lot of the storylines just are not they're not something you would give a kid.
Right? Yeah.
And the ones that we have read, much like Jen, I think have actually lowered my opinion of Peter Parker because he seems to just be making the ding dong moves like every single time, even over what should be an obviously clear cut choice of like, no, we ain't gonna do that.
Right.
I am more accustomed to, wisecracking, heroic, I guess younger Peter. And that's the other thing too, is like, I'm more accustomed to him being like a teen, rather than an adult. And I honestly think I kind of like him better as a teen than as an adult. He kind of makes a shitty adult.
That's a huge difference between people that grew up in media around Spider-Man and people that read the comics, because Spider-Man was only in high school. Peter was only in high school for about 3 years of the comics. And then obviously had to grow up and go to college and then further on and become an adult. So the fact that they keep redoing Peter and of course put him back in high school every time, it's kind of frustrating to us, actual Spider-Man comic book fans, because that's such a minuscule part of the overall. And now you have also Miles for that. And Miles can take you on that journey. But yeah, it's, I don't know, revisiting these, I kind of saw, I just started thinking about the Spider-Man storylines I actually like that I don't own, so I can't really just pull off the shelf and go back to. Like one of my first ones was Maximum Carnage, which is very, very 90s. And we're going to see part of kind of that story in Venom 2, because they have Woody Harrelson is going to play Carnage in that.
Yes.
But it's, it's in the whole symbiote thing, was pretty good. Like, it's hard. Like, there are parts of the symbiote thing that I'm like, man, this was pretty heavy-handed, or this this was pretty ridiculous. And then I'm like, oh, fuck. But, you know, at least Gwen Stacy didn't bang Norman Osborn in it. So, and at least the devil didn't take someone's marriage. And, you know, at least there were no fucking clones.
Oh God, yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah.
You know what, Bear, you're auditing. You've listened to this whole thing and said nary a word, a few here and there. But so, what do you think?
I'm just gonna file this as away as in like this is in shitty Spider-Verse universe like X5, and just assume that there's better writing out there.
There sure is. So, this or Dark Phoenix? Which do you think?
I'm not going back to read Dark Phoenix, but it doesn't sound like I want to read this either. So I'm just gonna nope right the fuck out of that vote, and I thankfully abstain, and I will look forward to me being a guest for our Hulk episode,
Which is true in two episodes.
Yeah.
Are you saying there's Hulk you haven't read?
There's Hulk I haven't read.
Yeah.
Actually, I haven't read. There's quite a bit of Hulk I haven't read. Actually,
Yeah.
There's very little I haven't seen, but there's quite a bit I haven't read.
I mean, you've gotten a lot of the Immortal Hulk because I bought a bunch for you.
Oh yeah, you bought I think the first 3, and I bought the 3 after that, and
Yeah,
it's some other miscellaneous stuff.
which again, very good. And we'll talk about it on that
Yes.
episode because Immortal Hulk may be the best Hulk comic I've ever read. Anyway, any other final thoughts?
I'm glad that we're done with Spider-Man.
And what we're just barreling right in though. Our only DC episode is next time.
Yeah, and so I'll get to present on that one, which will be a fun and exciting adventure for me, a person who very studiously does not read DC comics. So this will be a learning experience for everyone involved. And I'm actually looking forward to it. So I will warn the audience right now that I don't know a ton about Superman, so you're gonna have to forgive me in advance.
So what is the storyline that we're doing?
Death of Superman.
Yep.
I may have to come sit in on that one too.
Yeah.
Listening to
right.
me, your friend Leia, explain Superman. It'll be a treat for everyone involved.
So until then, Jared Adam did our awesome Elvis theme song that at this point I still have not received, but I know what it's going to be. And we'll see you in a few more weeks.
Woohoo.
A little wreck conversation, some deep reactions, please. All this comics narration ain't me. A little more talk, a lot less read. A little fight, baby, is what I need. Close the trade, open up your brains. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me. Vendetta 2021.